Hi, I'm Fahmy and you're in the stream. Today, the private lives behind the public trials of our jailed Al Jazeera colleagues in Egypt. We asked the journalists' families how they've navigated courtrooms and the press while trying to keep their families intact. So if there's a theme to today's show, it is keeping it personal, right? Malika Bilal, digital producer of the stream.
Right, and what is more personal than sharing baby pictures, which is what one of our guests did. I'll take us to the Instagram account. This is Mohammed ELRSAM's Instagram account, and he shows a picture of him and his brother, Abdullah ELRSAM, who's also on the show, and who was imprisoned in Egypt and released. Now we'll have your questions for both of them throughout today's show, and we'll dig into the story behind this picture. You can send us your questions, your comments, use hashtag AJStream.
And while you're doing that, let me just tell you that the stream is powered by you, our audience. So if there's a story that you would like us to talk about, you can let us know. And you can do that on Facebook. Head across here towards my laptop. You can share your stories, you can share your ideas. Just scroll down and you can see plenty of places for you also to be in the stream.
My name is Madingor. I'm a Juba-based journalist and I'm in the stream.
Imagine waking up to learn that your brother has been jailed and you must be the force campaigning for his release. That became the unexpected reality for the families of 3 Al Jazeera journalists a year ago. They learned that Egyptian authorities had sentenced Peter Greste and Mohammed Fahmy to 7 years in prison and Baher Mohamed to 10. They were charged with aiding the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood and spreading false news. The families are fighting the charges they say are false. But what is it like living private pain right out here in the public? With us to talk about this, we have Andrew Greste. He's the brother of Peter Greste, whose life consisted of family and farming before he became an international campaigner for press freedom. He joins us from New South Wales in Australia. Mohammed ELRSAM is a photojournalist and brother of Abdullah ELRSAM, the Al Jazeera Arabic journalist who was also jailed in Egypt last year. And in Doha, Abdullah ELRSAM himself, who was freed in June after going on hunger strike for more than 100 days. Gentlemen, welcome to the stream. There's so much to talk about, but Andrew, can you remember that first time that you met Peter after he'd been put in prison in Egypt? What did you say to each other?
I guess I was trying to make as much light of it as possible. Yeah. It was a very confronting experience. I mean, it was my first time in Egypt, first time in any kind of prison, and to be, find him behind bars, with in prison uniform was very confronting. But I just didn't want to focus on the circumstances because if I did, it would sort of break my heart, and I don't know if I would have got through the experience. So I think I was basically trying to focus on the individual and make sure that I was strong, so he got through the whole experience as well.
So you obviously thought about the first thing you were going to say, and the first thing you said was what, Andrew?
Oh gee, probably something like fancy seeing you here, or Did
it make him laugh?
I think so. I think so. He was surprised and happy. He had a big grin on his face, and I think that was probably it was comforting for me as well to lay eyes on him, to verify that he was physically unharmed and physically in one piece. I think because we weren't quite sure. I think he'd been jailed for, it was about 6 weeks before we managed to get any family members over there, so it was quite some time, and that was the first piece of family communication that we'd had in that prison visit. So it was a confronting experience, but we got through it.
See, Andrew, we hear a lot about Peter's work. We see a lot of Peter's work on video here at Al Jazeera, of course, but what's he like as a brother, like brother to brother, as a mate?
Yeah, he's a good guy, he's an outdoor, loves the outdoors, loves his kite surfing and bushwalking, and I guess that's probably he's does what he does, because he's outdoors and out on the job, and he's happy to rough it. So and he's also always sort of got a very compassionate side as well, and an understanding side. He's sort of never been judgmental or taken a hard opinion on anything. He's always very open to people's views and understand it takes all sorts to make the world go round.
Andrew, you told us about the first time you saw Peter in prison, and online we're getting lots of questions about what life behind bars is like. Yusuf Abba shed some light, though. He says there is no normal life behind bars. Freedom cannot be replaced by anything. So, Mohammed, that makes me pivot to this next tweet that I'll read to you from Victor, and he asks this question: are they still journalists where they are right now? Now, of course, Mohammed, we know that when your brother was behind bars, and our other colleagues that are there now, they're releasing letters to the public. They are still writing. What is that process like in getting those letters out? When you were writing letters to your brother, how did that happen?
First of all, the process of getting letters outside of the prison was really hard, because the police authorities always checked us to make sure we don't have anything from Abdallah, because they didn't want his news to go outside of the prison. They wanted him to be isolated in the prison. And also because of the limited time, we only got like 15 to 20 minutes every time we went to jail. So and we went over like 3 or 4 people, so we wrote some letters, and we did this in English, so the security person wouldn't understand what we're saying, because they were really strict about Abdallah, because he's a journalist and because he also works for Al Jazeera. But it was always hard, because they need to check your bags, they need to check your pockets, and unfortunately sometimes to give Abdallah books or anything, they made it a complicated process, even though it's a right for him to do that.
So 15 minutes, Abdallah, as your family visit, 15 minutes per family member, or 15 minutes altogether, and how many times a week? Abdallah.
Yes, it was just once a week, and that of course would be for the whole family. So of course that was no by any means a fair thing for all the family, especially when it was everyone there, my mother, my wife, my brothers. It would be something like a race, in order to try and, well, everyone tries to, say whatever they've thought of and, have arranged on their minds the whole week before getting to see me. So yeah, it was all of us felt not at ease at all about it, but of course that was the only way for us to get and hear each other's news. But it would sometimes not be easy to even get all the family members to see me, because they would only allow 3 members per one visit. Sometimes you had to go find a way around to let all the family members come in, and of course the family had to endure all the queues outside before the visiting time, which would sometimes be up to 3 or 4 hours before the visit itself. And then it was a humiliation, something that I wouldn't want my family members to go through at all once again. And it's just as much as like you mentioned about life in prison, that it's not really life, it's not a normal life. I think the families of our colleagues are enduring something heroic, and they really suffer a lot to see their beloved ones.
Sure. Andrew, how much time have you spent in Egypt this year, roughly?
I think it's close to 4.5 months. So it's certainly been a long time, and taken me a long time away from my own work and my own family. I've got 3 sons here and a wife, and a full-time job. So thankfully I've got some very good staff that help me run the farm here, and have been very understanding as well, and realise the importance of family, and realise that it's very important that we keep Peter supported in Egypt, because given the visitation restrictions, it's we are only the authorities only do allow first degree relatives, immediate family, and we're only Peter's family. We're only a small family. I've only got there's just the 3 boys of us. So and the other important thing was it was necessary for us to have someone over in Egypt throughout the 12 months, because that's our main communication link with Peter. During that first 6 months he was incarcerated, they allowed absolutely no letters in or out of the prison. We weren't allowed to take any writing or reading material in. So it was just that verbal communication that was our only link to him.
So Andrew, there's always somebody from the Greste family in Egypt ready to visit Peter all the way through the year.
That's exactly right. I mean, we haven't had there hasn't been a family member in Egypt every single day of the year, but we've managed to be there for every single prison visit. So we owe it to Peter, I guess, and just feel it's very important that he has family support over there. So it's been a big commitment, there's no doubt about that. And my brother as well has spent a similar amount of time in Egypt, and again he's a police officer and got a young family as well. So it's been a pretty interesting year.
Well, you mentioned the importance of family, so I actually want to play this video comment from a member of our community who was in prison himself, and he has his thoughts on that. So have a listen to this.
In November, I spent 10 days in detention without trial over a blog post, and then 3 days thereafter I waited in prison to meet up my bail condition. By now this, my family were united in ensuring I get out. Everyone put away their differences, both in prayer and in trying to get help. I'm really grateful to my family.
So Mohammed, he mentions that his family united over that, but this person asks on Twitter, Daniels wants to know how loved ones can do that. How do you deal with this ordeal? What kind of strain did this put on your family, Mohammed?
Of course, we were all as a family, we were shocked, and I personally, my fear and stress was more when Abdullah moved to solitary confinement, and there was no any way of communication like before. We in the solitary confinement, you need a permit from the judiciary to visit him, and it's just like the people who are gonna visit my brother, their names need to go to the security to get approved. This was the hardest time, I think, on not just me, on all my family. And
when you say it's the hardest time, what happens to the family? Do you argue a lot? Does it bring you closer together, Mohammed? How did it impact you?
No, I think this what happened to Abdullah united the family more. We were brothers, and when it was time to visit Abdullah, like we all worked, so we needed to free ourselves to go to the prison to see what he needs, what's missing, and any books he needs, or food or blankets for the winter, anything. So sometimes there was, I think, some arguing, like, he would need this because there's no any way of communication. So you need to guess what he needs, or what's finished, or any of this. But I think the argument or distress between the family members were all because of the situation. He was prisoned in Egypt, and there's no any respect for human rights in Egypt. There's no any respect for journalists. It makes it worse if you're a journalist. We saw that many people were freed, yet there's still many. But whenever there were people from Abdullah's case released, the lawyer said it's very hard because Abdullah is a journalist, and that's why they're not going to leave him.
Right. I have to show you something. This is from ABC News, and this is Andrew. This is your mum and dad waiting for the verdict to hear what will happen to Peter, and they have cameras right there. They're watching the verdict live on their devices. I think they're on iPads and on the computer. I just want to show you this little moment here and ask you what you think. Have a look first.
7 years for Peter Greste, repent Bahers, and 5 other 6 defendants present. My God.
Oh.
My God.
Oh,
sorry.
That's crazy.
Finish.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
And I'm watching that. I feel like I shouldn't even be watching that. That is just pure pain for your mum and dad. When you get those moments, and then you've got to go out and do a press conference. How do you do that? How do you just go, I've got this camera and I still have to talk to people, when you actually probably just want to lock yourself away?
Yeah, look, I'm a farmer and generally an introverted sort of a guy, and having to deal with it hasn't been easy by any means. And seeing that bit of video sends a bit of a chill up my spine. It brings back those memories of that day that Peter was sentenced. It was horrible, and throughout the whole campaign, there's been plenty of moments where I've wanted to go and hide under a rock somewhere and hopefully, wish that it would all go away. But I think the thing that keeps me going is Peter's strength as well, and knowing that he needs someone to fight for him, and I know that he'd do the same for me if I was in such a situation. So that's really what keeps me going and keeps me motivated, and I think we all draw strength from one another as family members. Occasionally there's times when we sort of have our bad days, and usually that's not all together. So but we get through it, and I think it has been particularly hard on mum and dad. There's no doubt about that.
Have they changed over the year, Andrew? How are they different now?
Look, I think it's physically aged, and there's, you can see changes in their physical health. So it's been extremely stressful. We're a long way from Egypt. It's a 24-hour plane flight. So, and it's not the most easiest place to live. So it has been particularly stressful for them.
Andrew, it's interesting you mentioned that stress. This kind of echoes this tweet I got from Abisha, who says the families don't necessarily want the job, but it's part and parcel of their support for their families. They have no choice. So Andrew, I'm wondering if there's something over this past year, when you look back, was there something that you never imagined yourself doing? I'm surprised that you could do.
Oh, look, there's so much. I've never been put in front of the camera and had to deal with that sort of attention. So I've had to meet politicians, diplomats, travelled overseas more times than I'd ever imagined that I would this year, deal with a court system, a culture, a prison system, people and the media that I never thought I'd do. So there's been some very interesting and at times obviously quite uncomfortable situations. But again, that's right, we have been thrust in this.
Andrew, don't hate me for this. I'm going to play to you an uncomfortable situation, okay? You ready for this? This is from an SBS Dateline story called A Brother's Plea, Portrait of Andrew Greste. And SBS, which is a public broadcasting service in Australia, they followed you to Egypt, and then there's one moment where you're outside the court, and you describe this as your worst media experience ever. Have a look at this.
I wasn't expecting this sort of interest, in front of the prison, but I hope. Just back up a bit,
Are you happy though to see this level of interest in Peter's case?
Oh, I think it's, we knew it was a high-profile case, and obviously, by the level of interest that
your hand.
Is, there's no denying that. Yeah.
How's the heartbeat?
You probably see it beating.
He's a glutton for punishment. Andrew's actually leaning forward, looking at the video like this. Andrew, what was going on in your head right there?
I think the adrenaline was really pumping at that stage. It was really confronting. I remember sitting in a vehicle there outside the court, and I was recognised, and within about 20 or 30 seconds the car was surrounded by cameras and microphones, and I just felt that I had to do it. I didn't want to, but I had to get out of the car and answer questions and face the media, because I thought it was important that people knew about Peter's story and that we communicated to the world what was going on. So it was just a matter of taking a big breath and doing the best you can.
Wow. Well, nicely done. Malika.
I want to take us to something on my laptop. This is a private look behind the life of a journalist. And this, of course, is Mohammed. This is your Instagram account. And this is you covering the Rabat massacre in Egypt, 2013. A rare moment of emotion caught on the other side of the camera. And it leads me to this tweet that I want to pose to you. Kareem says, has your family ever regretted allowing their sons to go into journalism? And of course, you and two other brothers are in the field. What do you say to that?
For me personally, my dad and mom, they always supported me and Abdullah and Musab. And even though after Abdullah was arrested, there was no any sign of regret, because this is his job. This is what he always wanted to do. So it would be strange to say we shouldn't have let him work in journalism, because things just happen as it is. Abdullah wasn't even based in Cairo. He was in Nigeria. He was a West Africa correspondent, and he covered in other places. And unfortunately, he was arrested in his own home country. So I don't think regret takes place from families or even from people, because even if you witness hard things, you go through stressful situations, but at the end, that's your job. That's what you want to do. No one forced you into journalism or TV or anything. So I don't think there is regret.
Abdullah, if you were being very candid about how you are right now, mentally, how you're sleeping, how you're moving around the world, what would you tell us? What would you tell Andrew maybe to help him prepare for when Peter gets out of jail?
I've actually been waiting for this question since the beginning of the show, because I remember when we were preparing for this show, that came across my mind to tell them that they should really get ready for that moment starting from now, because honestly, you never know what to do when this happens. I remember when all of us, all of my family, as I knew later when I was released, we were taken in a sudden fast sequence of events, and we were mostly not knowing what to do. Things were happening so fast, getting to see people came to kind of congratulate the family on my release, and there were a lot of things happening. So I believe they should really give themselves a lot of time before doing any kind of activities, any kind of media interviews, or even
Abdullah,
seeing people.
Do you know what
before,
that suggests? It suggests that it was not a great experience for you. When I asked you how you were, we've got less than a minute left. Honestly, how are you?
Well, I would say if time goes back, I would kind of readjust a little bit in how I have been doing since I left prison, because honestly, I wasn't really 100% ready for what happened later, because I would say, as a journalist, and for my fellow colleagues also, when they walk free very soon, you shouldn't really rush into those kind of interviews or activities, because the experience would take its time on you, especially with the family, your brothers, your parents,
just
your wife, your kids.
Time.
I mean, I think it would take. You should take your time, and I think you should do a lot of traveling. You should try and
take a pause, take a breath, Abdullah. Yes. We're not done. We're taking you to the post show with Mohammed and also with Andrew as well. So much more to talk about at stream.aljazeera.com. As for the next show, we're going to be looking back through the whole year of the stream, some of the highlights, so don't miss it then. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much for watching. catch up with you online. Hello again, this is the Streams Post Show. We're talking about the personal stories behind the public trials of our Al Jazeera colleagues imprisoned in Egypt. So we have Andrew Greste, he's brother of the jailed journalist Peter Greste. Mohammed ElRSAM is brother of Abdullah ElRSAM, who spent 10 months in a Cairo prison. And Abdullah ElRSAM himself is an Al Jazeera Arabic reporter. He was freed in June. Always a reporter. He said he was waiting for a question and had to wait for the entire show. It felt like a good place to kind of rest at the end of the main show. Abdullah, your advice to Andrew's family, and to Baher's family, and to Mohammed's family is what? What would you tell them?
Do you mean right now, or when Peter walks free?
Well,
I think
you kind of like, if you were preparing them, what would you say?
Well, I think at the moment, you know, of course, they're going through a very hard time, and I'm not, of course, I wouldn't be the one to advise them on how to manage their life, but I would say, from my own experience and from my family's experience, they should keep giving hope to Peter all the time. I know it's not as easy as it seems in words, but they should keep giving him that hope through the letters, through, you know, asking his friends and colleagues to write to him all the time, because that really makes a lot of difference to Peter and to anyone who is in jail. And they should also, I wouldn't be exaggerating if I say they should plan a year ahead of his release, because they should, I think that the most thing you realize when you go to prison is that, you know, of course you give yourself some time to kind of, you know, look back at your life. So you should really, they should really look back into you know, having a lot of time more together than before, because missing the family is the one thing that can never be, you know, given back to anyone. Right. And I think they should also, you know, try to send things to prison for him, any kind of things that he likes, whether it's books, it's food, it's anything. It's mainly about the spirit, keeping his spirit up, because as a former prisoner, I think when your morals go down, this is the worst thing that can ever happen, because just like you said, it's not a normal life. So all the anticipation and the expectation and just waiting for something to happen, it's not an easy thing on any human being.
So Andrew, do you have that plan together? Do you have worked it out as a family how you're going to manage when Peter gets out?
We've discussed it to a certain degree, but you know, I think probably we need to think about it a little bit more. It's one of those things where we're really focused on getting him out of prison, and it's been a, you know, quite an all-consuming job really this far. So and not knowing when it's going to happen is also difficult to plan, you know, something that you're not sure when and if it'll happen. So I think the other thing we're finding it difficult is that Peter doesn't really want to focus on what he's going to do when he gets out, because that is a sort of sets himself up for failure to a certain extent. He's very much keeps his mental, you know, state together by really just concerning himself with the day-to-day things in prison and keeping his mind active on his daily routines. And
Andrew, is he doing a course right now?
Mentally strength.
Is he doing a course?
Yeah.
Well, what's he doing?
Yeah, we've managed to you know, negotiate with the prison authorities. Thanks very much to the Australian embassy officials, that they've managed to get some course material in that allows him to study a course in international relations. So he's so
he can maybe do his own negotiations, perhaps. Right? Wow. Very clever.
So, but it's interesting because he's having to do it the old-fashioned way, just with all written material and handwritten assignments in pencil and paper. No internet. No.
I remember how that used to go. Wow. Okay, Malika.
You know, Andrew.
So it's back
Andrew,
to the
I
old
want to post this tweet to you because it picks up on something that Abdullah mentioned about keeping the spirits of those raised. So Simber tweets in, what do the parents, and I would extend that to the family members of the journalists, expect most from the people on social media for their support? And of course, I'm saying this on a day that we've seen 465,000 impressions using that hashtag #FreeAJ_Staff. So clearly this has resonated around the world. But what do the family members, what do you want most out of people who are watching this show and tweeting with that hashtag?
Oh, I think that's really important, just to see that level of support and follow it on social media, because I think it's just a demonstration of the fact that the guys have done nothing wrong. They were put in prison merely for doing their job, and there was no credible evidence presented in court, and they really should be free men. So I think seeing that amount of worldwide support on social media, in the mainstream media, we've seen it from world leaders condemning the sentence and the outcome of the court. So just seeing that is really gives us a lot of strength to keep fighting and keep campaigning for their release. And we try and pass as much of that information on to Peter as possible, and it definitely keeps his spirits up.
So I'm looking on my laptop of a picture of Abdullah when it's from the leaked video that leaked in May of his hunger strike. And Mohammed, when you saw this picture of your brother, what went through your mind?
I was really shocked because last time I saw Abdullah was in January, then I traveled, and this was around May, I think. So I was really shocked, and I spoke to like my family in Egypt. Is this real? How can this happen? And because you know, when you hear a lot, like I knew Abdullah was on hunger strike, but last time I saw him was in January, when he just started the hunger strike by 2 or 3 days. So he looked normal. But 4 months later, I was really shocked, because even the way he looked, like I felt his from his neck was different than the rest of his body. So I was really shocked and depressed, because you're dealing with people who have no respect for human soul. Because if this meant that Abdullah would just die, or as how himself, he always told me I would be on the hunger strike unless I rot in the prison. I mean, so for me personally, it was one of the worst moments when I saw this picture and the video. And yeah, then when they moved him to the Scorpion maximum prison, that was for me one of like the worst cases, because for me myself, I wasn't in Egypt, and it was over 4 months. I haven't seen him or speaking to him.
Yeah.
So it was hard.
So Mohammed, you know each other as brothers, and I have siblings, and we have a very special, unique relationship. If you look at Abdullah today, what's different about him? Has he changed?
Yeah, of course. Because
what's changed? There's a great picture here on your Instagram picture of you guys here together. This is about 4 months ago. And yeah, these are two brothers bonding together, and you look like you're up to no good. You look like you're up to mischief. But what's different about his personality now?
Of course, being in a prison and in Egypt for 10 months would change a lot in your character. I think it's mostly the way he thinks right now, the way he reacts. Of course, there are differences between now and before.
So tell us what, because you knew him before. What's different? Does he talk as much? Does he not talk as much? Is he more analytical? What's different about him?
I think social. Like I think now he
You don't want to say, do you?
No.
Does he tell better jokes now? What's going on?
No,
you can dish.
I mean, like,
he's right there, and he's in Doha. He can't get to you.
No problem. We're brothers. He's not going to be mad at me anyway.
Exactly.
Well,
I feel like you're holding out on me. Go ahead, Mohammed. Tell us.
Like, what I really remember about Abdullah before he was prisoned, he always communicated to people. He was more social, and unfortunately now people don't understand. They think, you've been in a prison or in solitary confinement, it's fine. You go out, you be the same person. And this is completely ridiculous. People need to understand that, of course, Abdullah now doesn't talk like before. He doesn't communicate like before. And this has reasons. Any human that passes through any trauma, of course, has to change somehow. And people should give excuses. But I now, when people talk to me, like, why doesn't Abdullah talk to us anymore?
Yeah.
Is he now like? People go like, he's famous, so he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think
exactly.
it's like this.
All right, let me wrap this up on something of a brighter note. The moment, Mohammed, that you found out that this scene, June the 17th, 2014, and your brother was actually released, when you heard that, how did you react?
Well, okay. I was on a bus from New Jersey to New York, and when I saw the picture, because it was like 2 days before it was announced that he was going to be released. Well, when I saw like the pictures were the ones you're showing now.
So did they pop up on your Twitter? Did they pop up on your phone? How did you see it? Just like that's what happened?
some of my friends mentioned me on Twitter, and some just posted on Facebook.
All right, so you're on the bus. Okay, going to New York.
Yeah.
Your brother pops up on your phone.
And I didn't expect it because it was.
And
late
your
in the night,
reaction, he's drawing the story out, but your reaction was, let's just cut to the drama. Mohammed, what did you do on the bus?
Yeah, I was screaming, and everyone on the bus thought I was crazy or something. Because,
How loud? How loud was that scream, Mohammed?
No, I was really loud, and when people started looking at me, I went to the end of the bus, and I was still screaming. So people were like, "Are you crazy or something?"
Were you by by yourself screaming on the bus?
Yeah, I was.
Literally.
There was
so was anyone sitting next to you?
No, there was no one.
Just you screaming on a bus going to New York.
Yeah, but no, there were like 10 people or something, but the bus wasn't all full, so I just went back to scream on myself, with myself, I mean.
Good. I love that. I love that story. Andrew, I hope you have that moment very soon. I don't know whether you're going to be on the farm. I have no idea where you be. But I really hope, sincerely, that you have an embarrassing moment like that where you are yelling and happy and just over the moon because you've heard of the Al Jazeera 3 being released. I hope that will be very soon. So to Andrew, to Abdullah, to Mohammed, thank you for sharing your personal stories. It really makes a difference to how we connect to your experiences as family members. Thank you very much indeed. Let's see what the community is saying before we wrap up.
Well, I think for the last word, I will say I think that their reaction would be similar to Mohammed's. We asked our community if they personally knew one of the journalists, the 220 who were jailed worldwide in 2014, how would they respond? And Maher writes in, number 1, I would fight not to let them be forgotten. And number 2, I'd tell the world that they're imprisoned against their right to make everyone know.
I never want to do this show ever again. A version of the show ever again. I'm hoping we never have to do it again. Andrew, Abdullah, Mohammed, I really like being and talking to you, but I hope we don't have to have this conversation ever again. I'm keeping everything crossed for you. Thank you so much once again. So,
thank you.
You're very welcome. So for the next show, we're going to be looking back over 2014, a year in the life of the stream. Some of the highlights, some of the guests will be coming back. Who will be coming back? You will find out on the next AJ stream. See you soon. Thanks for watching.